Hi, welcome back to section 4 of this video course. This section will now detail data management in Salesforce.com. If you can recall, in section 1, we defined the company profile for our organization, Mojo Electronics. This allowed us to set up company-wide defaults for all users within the organization, as well as define organizational data. In this video, we'll be defining organization-wide defaults as far as record access goes. In Salesforce, organization-wide defaults refer to the minimum level of access to records that we want to give to users. Basically, these defaults are the baseline security setting for a normal user. In any organization, security of data is extremely important. And in order to make any system more secure, or at the very least be properly set up according to its needs, we as administrators need to set up a proper baseline for security within the organization. In Salesforce, organization-wide defaults define the level of access any user can have to any record not owned by him or her. So to start off, let's just go to Setup menu. Then let's navigate to Administer, Security Controls, finally clicking on Sharing Settings. In the Sharing Settings page, we are greeted right away by the list of organization-wide defaults for all of the objects in the system, both for standard objects like accounts, contacts, opportunities, as well as custom objects like shipments and shipment items. So to start off, let's just click on Edit. On the Edit page, we can set the organization-wide default for each object. First, let me discuss what each of the defaults mean. So first off, we have Private. Private means that this is the most secure setting we can set our objects to. This also means that each record outside your own will be inaccessible and can be only accessed through sharing rules. Next, we have Public Read Only. Public Read Only gives access to all records in the system, but is limited to reading of that record. Public Read Write, meanwhile, gives access to both read and write for all records in the system. This, however, restricts users from transferring ownership of a particular record that they don't have access to. Next, we have Public Read Write Transfer. Public read-write transfer gives complete access to both read and write, as well as transfer of ownership to any record in system, even those outside of your ownership. And then lastly, for certain objects like detailed objects or contacts or activities, we have Controlled by Parent. Controlled by Parent means that having access to the master record would also give access to the child record as well. This particular setting is also available for the contact object, which the account serves as master. For our organization, Mojo Electronics, we want to tighten up access to all objects and limit access to records to their record owner only. This is a common configuration for most organizations, and it is best practice to set it up in this manner and expand access to other users through sharing rules and manual apex sharing if needed. However, we would still need to open up access on selected objects like contacts, leads, and accounts. This allows personnel for the whole organization to benefit from information about all potential leads, accounts, and contacts created on the system. We would, however, limit it to read permissions only. So first, let's set accounts, contacts, and leads to public read only. For a lead, let's set it to public read only. For accounts, set it as the same, as well as contacts. It is of note the available security settings for contacts are directly affected by what's on account. So for example, if we change it to private, you can see that the contact access for the contact is automatically influenced by what happens to the account, as well as other related objects to account like opportunities, cases, and campaigns. So let's just turn account back to public read only and set our contact to public read only. So next, let's select private for all objects. Beside the security setting, a user can specify whether we will grant access to records based on role hierarchies. It means that when user A has access to a record, let's say user A is a subordinate, another user, say user B, which is superior to that user on the role hierarchy, will also have access to all of the records user A has access to. Let's click Save to finalize the changes. Let's click OK for the final note. So please take note that all of the sharing rules will be recalculated based upon this new organization-wide defaults, and all of the sharing settings for all of the records will be recalculated as well. So that's it. We just have modified our company's organization-wide defaults. In this video, we have discussed what role organization-wide defaults play in securing the data for our organization. We have discussed how to set them up for our objects and what are our different options that we can use for the different objects. Like an example wherein most objects are restricted to owners by default. This is ideal for most organizations, as this sets a good baseline for security. However, it is always a good practice to consider situations when it is more practical to open up access to records rather than close them down. For example, if an organization has a much more flatter structure and it is not divided into regions, we can set the org-wide default for opportunities to allow users to edit opportunities regardless of department or physical region. So next up, we'll be discussing how to expand that organization-wide default using sharing rules.